As someone who's been collecting hot toys for 10 years, I've seen a lot of trends and collectors come and go from the hobby. That's why I'm spending the next 10 minutes to share my best hot toys collecting advice with you. My first piece of advice is to have a plan for your collection. I've seen it happen all too often. People discover hot toys, they buy up whatever low-cost figures they can find, and then they crash and burn out of the hobby pretty quickly. Before you start buying a bunch of figures, consider your collecting endgame. This could include things like how much space you can dedicate to your collection, the kind of display cabinets you might use, how many figures they can accommodate, and which characters and franchises are the most important to you. There's no prizes in collecting, so go at your own pace. This also means you'll avoid a situation where you might feel like you suddenly need to sell 20 figures because they no longer fit in with your collection or because you need the money. My second piece of advice is don't be complacent when it comes to pre-ordering. For a lot of us, the pre-order window is quite long. In Australia, it's quite rare for figures to sell out quickly on pre-order. I've seen a lot of situations where collectors have wanted a figure but have waited more than a year to place a pre-order. You then see these collectors posting in Facebook groups to say the figure is suddenly not on the website of their retailer of choice and asking where they can find a pre-order spot. If you really want a figure, pre-order it early. I know in the case of pop culture that if you change your mind, they will allow you to move your deposit onto another pre-order. I'm pretty sure that also with Sideshow in the US, if a figure goes beyond the estimated release date from Hot Toys, you can also use that as grounds to get a refund. This leads on to my next piece of advice, which is to do your due diligence before making a purchase. I've lost count of the amount of times I've seen collectors buy from a random business and then afterwards post in a Facebook group to ask if anyone's dealt with them and if they're legit. Facebook groups are a wealth of knowledge. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Group search is your friend. Before you give someone your money, do a Facebook search for the business name to see if anyone has mentioned the business and what the nature of those posts are. If there are no posts about them, to me that's a warning sign, and if you do decide to buy from them, then you're doing so at your own risk. Speaking of risk, my next piece of advice is to use goods and services when paying through PayPal. I can't believe that in 2024, I'm still seeing posts where people have made friends payments or bank transfers to collectors they've never dealt with before. The way I think about it, the 3% PayPal fee you pay is a lot less than the money you stand to lose if the seller ends up being a scammer. I would much rather pay that little bit extra to have the buyer protection and peace of mind that I'm covered if something goes wrong in the transaction. My next piece of advice is to walk away if something feels off about a deal. No matter how much you want something, if your spidey senses are tingling, I think it's better to just walk away. Last year, I put a call out on Facebook to try and track down a sold out head sculpt. I was messaged by someone who then told me they had it for sale. When I asked them to provide a photo of the head sculpt with a timestamp, all I was met with was excuses and reasons why I should just trust them. This included things like they have a good reputation in the community, they owned a $10,000 YJ Park figure. They then pointed to an Instagram account which had all of 100 followers, which when I checked today, doesn't even appear to still exist. All of these things were meant to be proof of their good standing in the community and why I should pay them $400 US for the sculpt, plus $100 US for shipping, and of course, cover the PayPal fees. That's around 750 Australian dollars I was being asked to pay without any proof that they had the head sculpt. I have absolutely no regrets walking away from that transaction. My sixth piece of advice is to ask for a video when buying secondhand. I learnt this the hard way when buying figures secondhand. I purchased the Batman Begins convention exclusive and the seller swore that it didn't have the common broken ankle problem. Spoiler, the figure had the common broken ankle problem. Instead of asking for photos, ask for a video showing the articulation of the figure. Also ask for the video to show any common or known problems with the figure. This could be material that's known to flake, or parts of a figure that can be prone to breaking, like the straps on a Captain America shield. With the video, you have the bonus of seeing the figure, but also getting a closer look at any problems it may have. My 7th piece of advice is to shop where your loyalty is rewarded. There are a number of retailers offering loyalty programs, so it doesn't always pay to shop around. For me in Australia, Pop Culture not only offers a 10% pre-order discount, but you can also use your loyalty points to further reduce the price. While the trade-off is having to wait a little bit longer to receive my figures because of the way Hot Toys are distributed to Australia, I'm more than happy to be patient given the amount of money I'm saving. So look around and see who the reputable retailers are near you and what loyalty programs they may have on offer. Speaking of which, my next piece of advice is that it pays to be patient. One of the biggest things I've learnt in collecting over the past 10 years is just how cyclical things are. And we're seeing that right now with Hot Toys revisiting a number of older figures and IPs. Buying when the hype is high or picking up older figures for resellers at really inflated prices are two things I do my best to avoid. Instead, I like to set a price that I'm willing to pay for a figure, and then I monitor my local buy-sell trade groups to see when the figure comes up for the price I'm willing to pay. And I say that as someone whose patience resulted in picking up the Hot Toys tumblers for less than $500 US for the pair. I just want to add, I make a point of paying the seller's asking price. I don't go around lowballing people. If someone is selling the figure I want at a price I don't like, I just scroll on. Going around and wasting people's time, particularly collectors in your local community, is just going to result in you getting a bad reputation and no one wanting to deal with you. My next piece of advice is to block out noise from the community. I can't stress this enough. Don't buy figures based on other people's opinions. And I know how hard this can be. This is something I've struggled with, particularly when I've wanted to sell figures, but the community keeps saying how great that figure is, and it makes me second guess whether I do want to sell it or not. If you are going to take stock in what other people say, I personally don't regard the opinions of people that have no intention of buying the figure or are basing their judgment purely on the blogger photos. If someone doesn't have the figure in hand, I take what they say with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, if you didn't love that figure before people started hyping it up, you're most likely going to end up falling out of love with that figure and trying to sell it later on. That's another nice segue because my 10th piece of advice is that selling figures secondhand is a pain. Unless the figure you're selling is considered a grail, selling figures secondhand is either going to take a lot of time or you're going to have to sell it at a really low price to move it quickly. People can be quite flippant in saying sell it if you change your mind, but that's easier said than done. Everyone is chasing a deal, and the reality is most collectors won't pay close to retail price for your secondhand figure. My final piece of advice is to invest in how you display. Regardless of the display cabinets you have, you'll increase your appreciation of your collection by displaying it in the best possible way. Adding lighting makes a huge difference. Having a background or diorama can also enhance your display. Taking a bit of extra time to hide your cables is also an investment in how you display. This is another situation where Facebook search is your friend. If you're feeling a bit unsure about cabinets and lighting options, search in the groups to see what other collectors have used. This is what I did, and I was able to connect with collectors that had similar display cabinets to mine to find out how they did their lighting and, more importantly, how they tackled their cable management. Investing in your display isn't just a monetary thing. Dedicate time to learn how to pose your figures. Having every figure displayed in museum pose doesn't do them justice. And I can understand how scary it can be when you first start posing figures. You don't want to break something that you just spent hundreds of dollars on. The good news is that there are a lot of great tutorials out there. In particular, check out Iron Logan and Figure Posing channel for great display ideas and posing tutorials. I've learnt so much from John and Anthony, and I feel like I'm a lot more confident in posing my figures as a result of what I've learnt from them. So that's my 10 years of Hot Toys collecting advice in 10 minutes. If any of these points resonated with you, let me know about your experience. Or if there is any key piece of advice that you would give collectors that I haven't covered in this video, make sure you share them in the comments.